Welcome to All In for Estacada Schools. We'll be taking an in-depth look into the work, the data, the wins, and the fun that's happening every day in the Estacada School District. And now, your host, Superintendent Ryan Carpenter.
Hey, hello there, Estacada families, parents, and community. We are live on Facebook. Thanks so much for being a guinea pig with us as we try to continue to improve our communications. We're here on Facebook Live today. All In for Estacada Schools has been a podcast since the beginning of this year as we try our best to communicate and have conversations about key issues and hot topics inside Estacada Schools. The podcast was wildly successful. However, there's a couple pieces of feedback that we wanted to make some quick adjustments towards. The first is our parents continue to be hungry for two-way communication. So we thought that this might be a good opportunity for us to move our podcast to Facebook Live, where the opportunity for families, community members, and really anybody has the opportunity to participate in some of the key things going on as we're all invested inside the Estacada School District. We're all in. The second reason is we wanted to just continue to meet the needs of our stakeholders. The podcast platform is not for everybody, and we learned quickly that a lot of our parents don't access information through the podcast process. Facebook is our #1 follower, and so we wanted to make sure that this platform, where the most important issues are discussed, happen right here on our most popular social media framework. So thanks so much for being a part of this journey today. As you can tell, our communications team is just doing some amazing work. I've got a microphone in front of me. We've got a lot of different cameras. The Estacada School District continues to be a state and national leader in trying to improve its communications to its constituents, its stakeholders, and most importantly, our families, our community, our great community. And so I just want to give a tremendous shout out. I am here today based on our communications team and their listening and their feedback to our stakeholders. And so I'm happy to be sitting here today to have a great two-way conversation. But I also ask, I'm here on Facebook, we're live. That's scary. I'll be the first to admit I'm scared today as we talk about some of the most significant hot topics, both politically and inside locally our school district, and the big things that are going on and the big decisions that our executive leadership team is working together and listening to all different groups and corners and pockets inside our school district to make the best decisions for this school district. So I do ask that you be nice and be nice to me and try your best to ask respectful questions. I'm so very grateful to have these opportunities, and I want to continue to meet the needs of our parents. And so here I am today and excited to talk about what's going on inside your school district. Now, in the podcast, we had ourselves set up really into 4 different segments. The first segment was focused on the question of a day. This was a typically pretty light question, really a better opportunity for the community to get to know your superintendent a little bit better. So the questions were personal, funny, and sometimes not funny too at the same time. The second issue was obviously the most important one, and those were hot topics. In the podcast, this gave us the opportunity really to talk about COVID quarantines, protocols, and so many different things that impacted the opening of our school year this year. And it was so great to have this unscripted forum to be able to dive deep into the decisions that we're making and the why and how those decisions came to be. These were hot topic issues. We then looked at the superintendent's inbox, my email inbox, because obviously there's a lot of themes, and those themes ebb and flow with how the school year is going, what's going on the state, local, and national markets. And so I always thought it was fun and important just to share the email load that I'm receiving, the communications and correspondence that are coming into the superintendent's inbox, and it allowed us to have deeper conversations. I do hope that we can continue to go through that process in this Facebook Live in the future as well. And then lastly, which was my favorite podcast topic, fact or fiction. Our communications team obviously goes through YouTube, goes through Facebook, and our other Twitter platforms because it's important that we have a good ear to the ground of what's being communicated about the Estacada School District. So we had fun on the podcast of choosing something primarily from Facebook that was either coming from a parent or a community member, and we would play the game, is what they said fact about the Estacada School District or fiction about the Estacada School District? That's a game we're going to continue, and since we're on Facebook and we know that Facebook is not the best place to receive your news, we will continue to play fact or fiction from Facebook about the Estacada School District. So we hope that you will continue that we will continue this podcast format. However, it'll just be a Facebook Live. We're going all in on the Estacada School District, and I'm so excited through this Facebook Live format to be able to cultivate and foster real, authentic, two-way communication and allow our parents, our grandparents, our community members, and even our business leaders to have the opportunity to ask questions so that they, in fact, can turn around and continue to spread the great, factual, honest, open, transparent news about the Estacada School District so we can be more fiction, or more fact, and less fiction. There's the funny parts of that. So with that said, we'll also add a segment at the end of this Facebook Live primarily focused on Q&A with Ryan. My name is Ryan Carpenter, and I proudly serve as the superintendent for the Estacada School District. This is my 4th year serving in this role, and my number one role and responsibility is to serve 7 elected school board members and execute the strategic plan that was created collaboratively by our community. And so my sole responsibility is to make sure that that strategic plan is being executed on a daily basis inside your school district. So with that said, communications team, who you're going to get to meet throughout these Facebook Lives, let's go to Hot Topics. So in our Hot Topics today, we're really primarily focused on the Parent Satisfaction Survey. The Estacada School District, as a part of its strategic plan, pays very close attention and prioritizes the satisfaction of the parents who send their children each and every single day into the Estacada School District. I'm so thankful. Really, this is our 3rd year conducting this survey, and through continuous improvement, strategic cycles of improvement, our school district, building by building, leader by leader, and the whole entire district as one, we listen to this parent voice. And then we ultimately create new leader action strategies in an effort to improve this. And so if you took the Parent Satisfaction Survey just this last fall, really in October at the beginning of our school year, I'm excited today to share out the entire school district's results to you today. So if you're an all-in Facebook Liver today, you're going to get the first-hand access to the overall results of what the parents said about the Estacada School District. So let's jump in. First, I need to remind everybody what just exactly I'm talking about when it comes to the pillar and the Parent Satisfaction Survey, and that's what that supports. So if you look at the yellow flower petal, that's the engaged families and community, which is a direct correlation or directly comes from our strategic plan. And so parent satisfaction is what we measure to ultimately see the success of our overall strategic plan. Inside page 19 and 20, and I will go fast here, but there are 3 specific strategies of how we intend to execute what was designed collaboratively for us from the Estacada community, and that's inside the strategic plan. I encourage you all to go online and access this if you want to know more about our strategic plan, but we're using parent satisfaction to measure this support. Now, inside all 5 pillars of the strategic plan, the Estacada School District made a goal last year, the 2021 school year, And these were the numbers that we were trying to hit, or the benchmarks. Yes, your school district made goals last fall, and we aggressively tracked and continued to try our best to execute and improve your school district so we could hit these benchmarks established by you. And so as you can see, we're going to primarily focus on parent satisfaction today. So you can see that in the fall, September of 2020, last year, our goal was to score a 3.88 by the end of the school year. You took this survey last spring, in April of 2021, and scored the school district a 3.97. So in just 6 months, or 90 days is what we call our cycle, the Estacada School District had already reached that growth threshold, and we were so excited. We celebrated all over the place of the great intentional work we were doing was being positively recognized by you. However, our goal is an annual goal from September to September, so all year we want to score a 3.88. And you told us this fall that at the end of the day, we scored a 4.02 out of 5, ultimately reaching last year's goal and benchmark. Now, the cool thing about continuous improvement is we're not done yet. We start our next goal with 4.02 as our baseline goal, and we go up from there. So our goal next year is going to be to score a 4.07 year over year, and very excited about that. This is on a 5-point scale. So in general, you can see 4.02, parents of the Estacada School District in general are very pleased. And I'm excited to roll this out to you so we can A, celebrate, highlight, and collect the things that Estacada School District is doing well so that we can keep doing that. The second thing is we value what we measure. If we continue to listen to the voices of our parents and we continue to measure their satisfaction of their child's educational experience inside our school district, if we focus on that voice, we're going to be able to improve together, and we're going to be able to co-own the educational experience of each child inside our community schools. So let's take a look at the fall 2021 results. So COVID was introduced in 2019. We all remember that well in the springtime. We asked our parents, how satisfied were you when we had to close our schools down and move to virtual learning during the pandemic? That scored a 3.85 out of 5. We were actually very pleased with what we did. The Estacada School District led the state in many cases in how we offered a robust education during this closed down time or virtual learning time. In the fall of 2020, the Estacada community was hit even harder, which allowed us to build our resilience and our cohesiveness together as one strong community to protect and support each other. In the fall, though, parents told us that their satisfaction of the Estacada School District dipped to 3.78 during and post the fires. So we knew we had some work to do, and so we intentionally cultivated strategic action plans, building by building, and the entire district as one. And from the fall of 2020 to the spring is where we scored that 3.97, and then just last fall, a great story of growth to a 4.02. Thank you for recognizing the great work done by every single employee who participates in making this a great experience for our parents. And that includes our bus drivers, our cooks, our custodians, our paraeducators, our building secretaries, our counseling staff and front office staff, our classroom teachers, our building administration, and all of the district supports that support the success of each and every single building. So thanks for everyone for playing a big role in that. So here are the top two statements that the parents of the Estacada said that this is the greatest strengths of the Estacada School District. Number one, my family is treated with respect at their school. In the fall of 21, that scored a 4.21, our highest score. You can see that in the fall of 20, so 12 months before this score, we scored a 4.18. So even our highest score continued to demonstrate growth. I show you the top box here because the top box is really the amount of people who are scoring this a 5 out of 5. So in the fall of 2020, 38% of all people who took the survey scored this score a 5, a total 5 overall. So not only do we want to improve the score, but we also want to increase the strong support. These are our all-in for Estacada schools people. This is a 5 out of 5. It's who we want to be at the end of the day, is a 5 out of 5 for you. And so we went from a 38% to a 45%, a 7% gain in 5 out of 5 people. The second highest score was my child has the necessary supplies and equipment for effective learning. This one's a cool story. In the fall of 20, that was a 3.8. This fall, this current October, we increased that. Our team increased that to 4.18. So that's a 0.38 increase. Tremendous. And again, 54% scored that as a top box. That's a little bit more than 1 out of every 2 people in your school district. A parent is saying 5 out of 5. My child has the necessary supplies and equipment for effective learning. That's a tremendous compliment as we think about having all the technologies in the classroom, the Chromebooks that are coming back and forth, and all the different supplies that our teachers are providing for each and every single kid to make sure that they have the access to be successful in their classroom. So here's where I get to stop for just a second, and this is going to be the fun part. This is where we get to engage in that two-way conversation. So if you have your phones ready, or if you have your computers ready, I need your help. So there's 3 questions that I ask. Now please, don't type these in and hit send right away. We're going to do this in kind of an orderly fashion, which is going to be fun. It's called a waterfall activity. So here's what I want to know as your superintendent. What did our schools do well in the 2 questions I shared with you that led to these great results? I asked that question because it's important that we keep doing what we know is working well. So we've got to know, what should we keep doing in order to achieve these high scores? What specifically is it that we're doing that's making a difference? I want to know that so that I can keep going and we can keep doing that together. And what we do well, what do we do well that we want to keep doing, which is what we're talking about. So don't hit send yet. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to just type away, but basically, please tell us specifically, here's what we're doing to make sure that your family is treated with respect at this school and that my child has the necessary supplies and equipment to be successful. Okay. On your mark, I'm going to count to 3, and everybody punch there in the chat, and then Maggie Kelly, our Director of Communications, is going to read those back out loud so everyone can hear what we're doing well inside the Estacada School District. So 3, 2, 1, hit that chat. And take it away, Maggie.
Well, I am just looking in our comment section now and waiting for those comments to come in. It looks like we don't have any yet at this time, but I want to welcome anyone that has input on what we're doing well as a district and in the future what we can improve on, to put those in the comment section, and we'll read them out, and we look forward to hearing your feedback in the future.
That's fantastic. Well, we're going to continue to keep working through this process. Again, we're trying to be two-way, and it's our first time, so it's completely okay as we just kind of thaw the ice a little bit as we work through this process. And I promise, because it's our first one, we're only going to continuously improve and get better from here. But I do encourage people to continue to tell us what our strengths are through that process. Now let's move on to our bottom 2. Here are the lowest 2 scores from our parents. And it's also important that we talk about this and work through the processes of how we can improve. So the second lowest overall score was I received positive emails, phone calls, or notes about my child from the school. That scored a 3.71 this fall, which is actually pretty impressive if you think about it. So from last fall, which was a 3.23, an extremely low score, we were successful in the work that we were doing to improve that to a 3.71. We also moved our top box, our 5 out of 5 people, up 9%. So 9% more of who took the survey scored this score, a 5 out of 5. So very excited about that growth, but we know we need to continue to improve here. It's still one of our bottom 2 scores, and so we need to develop and build plans in an effort to continue to improve that. The lowest score from our parent satisfaction survey was, I regularly receive feedback from school staff on how well my child is learning. That scored a 3.56 this fall out of 5, and that's up just a little bit over 3 points. It scored a 3.21 a year ago, and so very excited to see, again, tremendous growth from some of our lowest scoring areas as a school district. Again, our top box rose by 9% to 25%. So I'm pleased with the growth, but we're not there yet. And so in these 2 categories, we really need to remain focused on how that's going. Now let me talk to you a little bit about some examples of what these leader action plans look like. So let's give the Estacada Middle School, for example, on a goal they had to improve the overall parent satisfaction. Remember now, our goal last year was to score a 3.88. Estacada Middle School made a goal to dedicate time every other Tuesday for teachers to call families to inform them of how well their child is learning per the 80-80-80 learning indicators or readiness indicators. And what that basically means is we're looking at kids who are under 80% in passing their essential learning standards, who are under 80% in their attendance rate, or under 80% in turning in their just general homework class completion. And so we really are trying to take time at the middle school to intentionally call families and let them know how their child is doing. One example of a leader action plan that a school district is doing to intentionally improve the scores. Your superintendent, I conducted Super 60-second communications, things that you've seen. I've also done keywords at key times for our employees, and this Facebook Live forum that we're doing right now is another example of a strategic action we're trying to do to improve the communication, ultimately leading to parent satisfaction. And then last but not least, just one more example at Rivermill Elementary School. Teachers are provided 30 minutes set aside weekly for Power School data updates, for Canvas updates, and parent communication. So at Rivermill Elementary School, led by Jennifer Berman, who's an awesome principal, is setting aside time throughout the week to make sure that parents have updated grade books, updated Canvas classrooms, and then ultimately times and opportunities for classroom teachers to make phone calls with parents. These are just 3 of many examples of what our school district is doing in an effort to improve these scores. Just for fun, how are our principals doing and superintendent doing in the eyes of our parents? We absolutely measure this as well. My principal is an effective leader. In 2019, that was a 4.02. During the pandemic and the wildfire, that fell to a 3.89. It has now risen all the way back to a 4.09. We have tremendous, very talented and skilled principals, and I'm very proud of this group and their intentional work to improve in the eyes of our parents. And a 42% top box is impressive. The superintendent is effective leader. Started in 2019 as a 3.83. During the pandemic and the fire, that was a 3.82. And then over the course of my own intentional improvement work in communication, that's risen now to a 4.0 with a 39% top box. Very proud, and I just want to thank our community for recognizing the intentional growth that we've been trying to make to meet your needs and to provide quality service to each and every one of our parents. So coming back to that bottom 2, this is again that waterfall opportunity. I sure would love for some people to tell us exactly what is it a 5 would look like? So if the Estacada School District was performing a 5 with receiving positive emails and phone calls and regularly receiving feedback from school staff on how well that goes, as a parent, what does that look like to you? Like for you to score either of those, a 5 out of 5, what does that mean? Please take a minute, if you're watching live, to just type in some things that we can do to improve the overall experience of you and your child so that we can make an impact. How can we improve? I'm going to wait about 10 seconds and see if something comes in. So go ahead and type it out and go ahead and send it in. Okay, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll see if we had some brave people type this in, like I'm being brave talking to you on Facebook Live right now. Maggie, what did we get this time?
Well, it looks like we still have a pretty quiet room, but I do want to welcome anyone that is watching live. Put any comments in the comment section on Facebook. Oh, it looks like we just had one come in. A parent said that they would like weekly updates about my student and that they love getting calls from the school principal. That's great feedback, and thank you for breaking the ice. And we would welcome any additional comments on what that would look like. So Superintendent Carpenter, that is our first comment for this Facebook Live session.
All right, thank you. And I appreciate your bravery of jumping in with me. And this is important. I want to write these things down. Weekly updates and updates from the principal are very important. And to hear that is something we need to build a plan on. And so just thanks so much for this. And if you're not watching live and maybe watching this later in the evening when you get home from work, I still encourage you to type in the chat because I'd like to use this feedback from you in an effort to build strategic plans around your voice. So thanks so much for that. So what are the next steps? Again, I believe that what will separate the winners and the losers in these times, and these are tricky times to be in public education, things are shifting all of the time. We need to have the ability to quickly execute the correct actions. And this is an example of us trying to listen, then adapt, adopt, or abandon our plans based on parent feedback. And so we're trying to make those quick adjustments in an effort to meet the needs of all of our families inside our great school district. So as I told you before, our goal overall is to score a 4.09. I actually believe that's a 4.07 will be our goal for this coming school year. And so in April, we're going to measure again to see overall if our intentional action plans have made the difference in the eyes of our parents. And so very much looking forward to seeing if our intentional strategies and plans are improving our quality service to our parents. We're going to measure, monitor, and manage all of the work that we're doing to make sure that what we're doing is reaching our desired results. Ultimately, leading back to the core 5 pillars of our strategic plan. Because at the end of the day, the Estacada School District is anchored to the mission, vision, and values of the strategic plan designed by our community. And so with that is our hot topics today. Thank you so much for being a part of this process. I now want to move us to this two-way communication and the opportunity for our families to go Q&A with Ryan. So if we have a graphic for that, let's set that thing up and let's get to work. Okay, so a Q&A session. I know it's been a quiet room. We're just getting started. We know that this will improve as we go. And of course, as the hot topics get hotter, this is definitely going to be the place for people to go all in with me. So I understand that. I just want to thank those who have been a participant in our first ever All In for Estacada Schools Facebook Live. But if you do have some questions right now, I encourage you to ask them. So Maggie, I'm going to send it to you and let's see what comes through the chat.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Carpenter. It looks like we had one question that came in via the inbox, actually, and they said that they had watched the tour of our facilities with the board members and noticed some issues with the school turf, and we're wondering if that's why the football game was played at Sandy, and if you would speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, great question, and thank you for asking that. In fact, our natural grass football field at Buzz Randall Stadium does continue to hinder our student athletes in our community. It's true, we did have to move our big quarterfinals football playoff game to Sandy because the OSAA and the Referees Association deemed our football field or playing surface unplayable, which was just a devastating impact, not only to our kids who dream of playing playoff football games, on their field. This is where our kids dream of winning those championships is here in Estacada. But it also infected our community. Friday nights, Buzz Randall Stadium is a hub for our community, and it's the place where we all gather and to celebrate our kids on a great Friday night. And it also impacts the economics of our community because we offer visitors who come in, they fill their gas tanks, they get dinner here in town. And so losing that football game to the location of Sandy last Friday night had very impactful consequences for us that were not good. But it's also not the first time. We've had 3 soccer games get canceled in the last 3 years, and 1 girls soccer game, 3 boys soccer games and 1 girls soccer game canceled. And a playoff game for our boys soccer team was moved as well. And so at this point, we've been putting the synthetic turf field into our bond in our last 2 bond campaigns because we know we need to improve the surface here. Unfortunately, our community, not just for reasons of turf, but for various other reasons, have told the Estacada School District no to our ask for a community investment, a bond investment in its schools. And so at this point, the school board and myself are trying to look for creative ways in which we can make our athletic fields competitive for the kids who are going through our processes right now. And so, yes, our school board is looking at potentially purchasing turf for Buzz Randall Stadium so that we can make sure that our fields are safe and competitive for all of Estacada's kids, both currently in high school, in our youth and community leagues, and it fosters new opportunities for different activities to take place on this playing surface as well. Right now, we're currently looking at the return on investment and what a cost of something like this would look like. We're also reaching out to local community members who we know either have the equipment and or the finances to help us offset the big ticket expenditure of what a turf field would look like. We think that somewhere around the $1.52 million range is what it's going to cost for us to put a full artificial turf in there. The return on investment tells us that actually we save money by going in this direction, considerably save money by going in this direction. But we think it would be cool if our community could come down with dump trucks and graders and different things because we believe we can offset some of the cost with in-kind donation to help make this affordable as possible. I think it's also important to note in terms of how these funds would come. And it's important for me to say that if we were to purchase it, if the board were to authorize the purchase of a turf field, it does not come from the general fund budget. So this is not taking money out of the classroom, nor is it taking money out of our employees' pockets. The Estacada School District has a separate fund called Capital Construction. This is the separate fund that we have to fix major repairs to make sure that we're being good stewards of taxpayer facilities. How this special account gets funded is through building permits and CDC funds, really through the city and county. So as we have all of these new houses being built in new neighborhoods, each new house pays $1 per square foot in CDC tax, which ultimately goes into this capital construction fund. Now, our school board has been extremely fiscally responsible and conservative, and we've been saving this money to make key technological updates, safety updates, and structural updates to each and every single one of our buildings. But we've been saving this up for emergency circumstances. We believe at this point that the fact that our fields are no longer playable is an emergency circumstance for the student athletes in our communities who participate on these fields. And so I just want to thank you for that question. It's a long question, but I wanted to make sure that I answered it thoroughly. By no means has our school board made a decision yet. At this moment, we're fact-finding. We're reaching out and listening to the voices of our community, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're representing our community appropriately. However, our community right now is telling us that we need to invest in a safer playing surface for our young student athletes, and Buzz Randall Field is the place for us to really focus that time, effort, and financial investment in. So thank you for that question. Maggie, are there any more that have come in since then?
Yes, we have an additional question that I'm sure several parents have. Now that the COVID-19 shot is available for younger students, what does the possibility of a shot mandate look like in our schools right now?
Yeah, I know that this is a big hot topic, and actually in our next All-In for Facebook Live conversation, I really want to address this a little bit more, but I appreciate you being a part of this, and I'll answer this to the best of my ability right now. So you're right, the vaccination is available for all kids ages 5 and up. I am hearing, in fact, I just met with state representatives last week, that they do not anticipate any type of sweeping mandate and or governor mandate to enforce all students to be vaccinated during this school year. So I think that's a good sign, and of course, subject to change, right? We've been working quickly with a whole bunch of different changes that have come to our school district through the state, the Department of Education, and Oregon Health Authority. But what I heard last week was promising, that there will not be any type of mandate for vaccination for this school year. And the reason why I say that's good is because it allows families to make their own choice of what's best for them and their values. We support families' abilities to make the choices that are right for them. You can choose to come to the Estacada School District, or you can choose different places to receive that education. We do believe in that choice. Now, I am hearing conversations that the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, might become a required vaccination for next school year. However, required and mandated are two different things. And so by going through the traditional required vaccination route, we already have a lot of required vaccinations for students who attend public education. Measles is one of them. Tetanus shot is one of them. Mumps and various different types of vaccinations that we're all required to take are a part of that process. And what it goes through in a traditional process is if a child, let's say, doesn't have the measles vaccination, there is an exclusionary date in the month of February. So a kid could come to the Estacada School District unvaccinated and out of compliance, and they can stay in school really until February. And then it's February when all school districts in the state of Oregon have to do something about that. Now, what's different in the mandatory vaccination route is that there are two opt-out opportunities for families. The first is for religious reasons, and the second is for personal reasons. And so if a family just doesn't want their child to get vaccinated, there's just an opt-out form and a short video that families have to watch. And this is no different for measles, mumps, or tetanus. And so I'm pleased that it sounds like the conversation about the COVID vaccine for kids is going to go through more of a traditional route. And again, nothing that I'm saying is finalized or in. Right now, there's just committees of people in Salem who are working on this. But I think it's important that I give our families the most up-to-date information And I know that a lot of our parents are nervous and anxious about the potential sweeping mandate of the COVID vaccine for kids. And I'm telling you right now that it does not appear, feel like, or look like that's going to be happening anytime soon. And so I think our families at this point can rest assured that they can make their own choice, or the child can make their own choice of if they choose to vaccinate or not. So I hope that question helps. Maggie?
All right, it looks like those are all the questions we have at this time. I want to thank everyone for participating in the discussion and welcome those that are watching this later as well to tune in and put something in the comment section as well. We read those comments that are submitted later as well. So thank you, Superintendent Carpenter, for answering those questions.
All right, so we get to close this thing up today, and I just want to thank those that were brave enough to stay with us through this all in on Facebook Live. It started as a podcast. We moved it to the Facebook Live platform. You can be one of the few who said that you were there for the first one. We're going to continue to improve. We're going to talk about the things that our community wants to talk about. And at the end of the day, the whole reason for this is the Estacada School District is committed to being a great place for students to learn, for teachers to teach, for employees to work, and for parents to send their children to school. And we think we can accomplish that by being vocal, transparent, honest, and open for any difficult conversation. Because at the end of the day, we can only be as successful as much as we work together. So I look forward to partnering with you as we co-own making the Estacada School District the premier school district that we all want it to be. A 5 out of 5. Have a great week. We'll see you in 2 weeks. We hope you'll tell your friends. We hope you'll spread truth and debunk the fiction. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks again.